In this video, I will show you exactly how you want to test Facebook ads for performance like this, or this. This is something that we have just recently implemented, and this has helped finding winning messaging, winning ads, and winning angles much faster. My name is William, and I've generated over 20 million in sales for 7 to 9 figure e-commerce brands with Facebook ads. And with that having said, let's get straight into the video. So the way that most brands test is actually random testing. They have some random ad ideas. For example, here we sell a bathrobe, and then they just take some creatives, toss into the ad account, maybe toss them in some Advantage Plus campaigns, and then just see how it goes. If you're already somewhat experienced, you already see what the problem with that is. Of course, if we just throw ads into an account, they might work, they might not work, but we definitely won't really derive any learnings. We might find that, oh, this performs well, or this doesn't perform well, but the learnings end here. And that is a problem, because if you're already spending a few $100s on testing one ad creative, you want it to give you as much learnings and data as possible to actually build upon that and further improve. So what you want to do instead is running split tests, and I have some great examples for it here. So basically you run the same ad creative, but you run different headlines or different images. This is what I've been doing in the past without actually realizing that this is still not exactly what I need to do. Because imagine you are testing a new ad concept. For example, let's say we are testing this one new and we put 3 different headlines on it. One problem with that is that those are extremely similar. And yes, I used to preach test only one variable, but these are so similar that Facebook might not even really differentiate between these when you put them into one ad set. Maybe this version gets spent, but actually this version would even convert better. I have seen that very often in ad accounts, and then we ended up turning off this, letting this run more, and so on and so on. Now, important disclaimer, this is not about ad iterations. If you already have a proven image like this, and this performs really, really well in the account, then it makes sense to actually iterate just one variable, just very granular, let's say the headline, and see if another headline gives us a squeeze of performance. This is how we can multiply winners. What I was saying right now is assuming we test a fully new concept. Another problem with testing it as granular as this in the first concept is that usually you sacrifice ad congruency. So for example, if we look at it, here we take as the headline, wear a story. Okay, you might wonder why, and this is why you might click on the ad. But then here we say, crafted by artisans, worn by you. Now, this is a good claim, especially if people want to wear something high quality, handcrafted by artisans. But it would make way more sense if on this creative, with this headline would be actually like a small screen, a split screen, with an artisan actually crafting it. Like this headline claims something about the product, but the visual doesn't really support it. And congruency between the headline and the visual is obviously very important for the ad. Same thing here, it says handcrafted, but it just is the same image. Now, what we also don't want to do is only split testing imagery. Now again, if this already proved to be a winner, and actually for this brand it did, and this is why we made this iteration, but let's say you're testing a new concept. Having 3 different images or like designs of this article angle with this headline, even though we don't even know if it's working, is often simply not worth it. It only makes sense if one of them is already proven, and then we want to go more granular to actually further optimize it. Now let me come to what we actually recently implemented and have seen great performance with it. And this is superlative testing. Here you can see it kinda looks like random testing, right? But it actually has a whole system and strategy behind it. Let me explain. So in this split test, in this ad set, we didn't just toss a bunch of different creatives together, but actually we took the gift angle. But instead of just saying, hey, we will split test this exact headline, or hey, we will split test this exact visual and nothing else, we actually do a higher level test here. Because for this brand, we made a gift angle for the first time, and more than 50% of the customers of this brand are actually men. But because we went for a gift angle, it might of course be that for the gifts, actually most women buy something for their men, or vice versa. So what we did here is a superlative test, like a high level test of the persona. So it's still a split test, but on a higher level. So in version 1, we had a guy in the bathrobe that we are selling, and then the headline was gifts for him. You can see congruency between the image and the headline. Then in version 2, we had pamper her with this festive season. Again, congruency between the headline and the visual. And then in version 3 we had something broader. Actually, we kept this more neutral and just said give the gift of comfort, so basically giving it the chance to perform for both genders. If you're having difficulty to understand this whole split testing concept, basically you want to think already ahead of the test what you want to learn from this test. For example, here we decided we want to learn which gender will be more receptive to the gifting messaging, or if a broad gift messaging without targeting any specific gender would actually work better. Now, disclaimer, when you do this, you still want to make sure that the ad format is actually about the same or the same, because if that gets too different, it's again like random testing, and something might perform just because it has another ad format. For example, here we have a promo ad, gifting ad, and here we have just a lifestyle ad. So this is pretty much random. We could have also here the gifting messaging. For example, here we have gifting messaging, gifting messaging, gifting messaging. But again, here we actually have too many variables different, even if it was all gift messaging, because it's just the ad format is very different. Here's just a straight product static. Here it's a collage, and here it's a lifestyle shot. And if we do that, one of the versions could actually get more ad spend in the ad account just because of the ad format, and not necessarily because this is for women and this is for men. So you want to pay attention to it. You want to make sure that you split test different hooks or like different desires, benefits, personas. Here we did different personas for the gifting angle for a simple static with a claim on it. And you want to make the visual and the headline as congruent as possible without changing too many variables, just like in this test. And then if you see, hey, this performed the best, the gifting angle for men, then you can go and actually make 3 versions out of this, where we have the same headline, gifts for him, but for example, 3 different images of the guy, or we leave the same headline, gifts for him, but then we decide the split testing variable will be the ad format. For example, we can have this image, but just like as it is right now, and we can have this image and more images in a collage style, but again with the same headline. So that would be already a more granular test. And then if you find a winning ad there and want to go even more granular, you just take the winning version and iterate just the headline or just the image to further optimize it and get more winning ads out of it. So we still don't want to have too many variables different, but we take a top to bottom approach. If you don't know yet what gifting persona will actually resonate the most, it doesn't make sense to just focus on men and go super specific on the headlines, if it makes sense. Now you might be wondering, okay, but where should I actually start? Like on what level should I start? Should I start testing the ad formats or the personas or the benefits, or how to do the superlative tests properly? So I will show you a tweet of mine that performed really well that has a great visual to explain it. Basically, each of your products fulfill different desires that your customer personas want to have fulfilled. That's basic marketing theory. You can't really create desire, or at least if you'd try to do so, you would need massive ad spend, basically like mass propaganda. What we do instead is we sell a product via a desire. For example, this one is simply feeling very safe and well and comfy at home. Now each desire gets satisfied of different features and benefits of the product. For example, for the bathrobe, it can be the product quality that leads to it being very soft and comfy. Now, each benefit will resonate with a specific persona the most. For every persona, we can position the product differently. For every positioning, we can take another angle. And for every angle, we can have different visuals and different text. The impact of performance is top to bottom. So the desire that you target and the persona that you target will have, for example, way more impact than the specific headline. Now it's important to note that I mean split tests here. So for example, if we have just 2 different words in 2 headlines, this is not a big difference and it's almost not worth split testing. This is why it's here at the bottom. Of course, still the text is relevant because that's actually the messaging. So the text still heavily influences the angle or the persona that we actually target with the ad. This hierarchy just means that a small split test like a word or a sentence or rephrasing on the headline won't do much, as well as just a slight different visual. But of course, these are still very important to be congruent with positioning, with persona, with angle to actually target the right person. Now, when you just start running ads, you want to go top to bottom to actually get to what's resonating most with your audience in the shortest amount of time and with the least amount of budget. So the first split test should be about the desire. Of course, you need to also fixate already the persona, the angle. It should be the same ad format. Again, keep the other variables the same so that we get actually insight on the desire. To make it more congruent, change of course the visuals and the headlines, basically the hooks of the ad creatives, to make sure that they express that desire in the best possible way. And then based on your tests, even if let's say you don't find a winning ad, you will find what desire resonates the most, what gets the most spent, what performs the best, even if it's maybe not a winning ad yet. Then you know already, okay, maybe I don't have a winning ad, but I know what I want to advertise mainly and what I want to iterate into. And then you just go down this path and keep running hook split tests to target different personas, different angles, have different text. And with every test, you can go more granular and granular until you are actually at this point where you just split test a different image for an already proven ad format, already proven headline, or where you just test a different headline for an already proven angle, persona, and for an already proven image. So this is what you want to get to, and this is what your iterations should look like, but this is not how you want to start. Whenever you launch a new concept, you want to have different hooks. Now, we've talked only about static ads. If you ask me, well, how is it for video ads? It's quite similar. What you want to do is basically, again, split test different hooks. What we used to do is having the same video, but with 3 different headlines or with 3 different visual hooks in the beginning, but the text hook was the same. Here again, just have 3 different hooks depending on what you target. If we, for example, want to make a video concept out of this, we would have a video that shows the bathrobe and talks about the bathrobe. But in the 3 hooks, we would actually have one hook that says gifts for him, and then of course have a man in the hook. Then in the second version, we might have gifts for her and then have a woman in the hook. And in the third version, we just might have not a gender, but just the product and say best gifts for these holidays. So I hope this gave you a good overview of how you can test with systematic creative strategy to find new winning ads and new winning approaches as soon as possible. If you don't want to do this yourself, but actually someone to implement this is exactly what my team and I do for e-commerce brands. You can just click the first link in the description and schedule a free call with me to discuss. Apart from that, if you want to scale to 8 or even 9 figures, I have a video where I explain exactly the systems that you need for it. Check it out here. Keep scaling, see you there.